Hello everyone, long time no chat. I think it's been a month or so since I've made a podcast episode. I was really into the vlogs for a hot second, and then last week I was incredibly sick. So this is actually the last episode we're filming before second year. Confession, I wasn't going to make another podcast episode until we were back in St. Andy's. However, after this past weekend, I'll explain in a second, I was feeling incredibly inspired to make this episode. Today, we are going to be chatting all things long distance friendship and what that kind of means in regards to moving abroad. So yeah, let's get chatting. I would just like to start off by saying I feel incredibly qualified to be making this episode. My other episodes, not really. However, this episode, 1000% for sure. I would even go as far as saying I'm a pro at long distance friendship. My longest and most cherished friendship has always been long distance since day one, since before I decided to move abroad. I am, of course, talking about my best friend Tyler. I'm gonna give you guys some context because I sometimes forget that you guys don't know every single aspect of my life. Tyler is my cousin on my dad's side. We're about a year apart. I grew up in Tampa. She grew up in Atlanta. So we've always lived relatively pretty far away from each other. And yet she's my best friend. She's my platonic soulmate. We are the same person. We just happen to be different people. It's one of those things where everyone in my life, even though they may not have met Tyler, they still know who she is and basically everything about her. And everyone in Tyler's life pretty much knows me, even though I have yet to meet most of them. I guess what I'm trying to say is that even though we have always lived 400 miles apart, now we live 4,000 miles apart, distance has never affected our closeness, and it's never affected our relationship. Even though there's an ocean between us, I've never once hesitated to call her my best friend, and I've never once doubted our bond. How though? That is the $1 million question that I plan on answering today in this podcast episode. We're going to break this episode up into two main parts. The first part, I just want to chat with you guys about the reality of long distance friendship. And then the second part, I'm going to give you guys my own little personal tips and tricks for maintaining long distance friendship because we've been doing it for a good 19 years. So just to chat, the reality of it all. The reality is long distance friendships are an inevitable aspect of moving abroad. When you first move, obviously all of your friends from your old life are going to become long distance. But then also, once you find your friends where you're now living, they're gonna become long distance too at some point. When I think about all of the friends that I've made in St. Andrews, we all live in such different places that when we're not in St. Andrews, we are incredibly long distance. So it's like you move abroad and all of your home friends are now long distance, but then it's like you're basically just setting yourself up to have a lifetime of long distance friendships. And that's kind of just the reality of the matter. It's a choice you have to make. Tailoring this to first year specifically, and when you first move abroad, I feel like it's really good to go in with the mindset or just being aware that a lot of your friendships are going to change. There's going to be a little bit of an adjustment to see what your friendship now looks like in this season of your life, especially if you move to another country because you're no longer going to be on the same schedule as most of your friends. Time zone difference is such a real thing. It's going to take a little bit of time to redefine what is the new normal for some of your friendships because your friendship is now functioning in a completely new environment under a completely different set of circumstances. So some people may leave your life, and that's okay. Some relationships may shift, but I am such a firm believer in the fact that just because you move abroad doesn't mean you have to let go of old friends. I think that long distance friendships, they're a lot of effort. However, if you are willing to put that effort in, you can maintain that friendship and you don't have to lose that person. Just because you're moving to a different country doesn't mean you have to lose any old friends. But as I was saying, long distance friendships, they do take a lot of effort. You have to be willing to put in the time and energy to maintain those friendships, which is segueing us into part 2 of this episode, if you will, my own personal tips and tricks for maintaining long distance friendship. I have so many thoughts and or opinions on this, so I'm very excited to talk about this. I am a good lover of a snap vlog. If you're wondering what a snap vlog is, it's just a long video you send on Snapchat. Do I love the app Snapchat itself? Not particularly. I have like a very iffy relationship with Snapchat. For me, if that's your main form of communication, past the age of 15, no hate, no shade. Just not my thing. I would just prefer people to text me. However, a snap vlog, revolutionary for a long distance friendship, especially when it comes to time zones. I am going to use Tyler and I as an example of this. Obviously, when I'm off at school in Scotland, doing my thing, and Tyler is in Atlanta, being her busy self, we don't really have a lot of times where we can coordinate a FaceTime. So a snap vlog kind of lets us FaceTime without having to like find a time to like coordinate a FaceTime. Our little perfect schedule that we did last year, she would send me snap videos on her way home from volleyball practice, which was like 9 p.m. ATL time. So I'd be asleep. And then in the morning I'd wake up and I'd be walking to class. So she'd obviously be asleep, but I'd watch her videos and send her a little update while I was walking to class. But obviously she was sleeping while I was sending them. She'd watch them later in the day. You get the vibe. Just because our schedules and time zones weren't really lining up, the snap vlog, however, let us still have that like check-in moment where we could stay updated with each other. In the same vein as a snap vlog, I really love a voice note. I just like to say, avoid only texting. I feel like when you only text, you lose a lot of that human connection. And there's just something about hearing your friend's voice that is so much sweeter and better than just a little text. However, I do love just a little text check-in, like, hey, I miss you, how are you? I am notorious for sounding like a desperate ex when I'm texting my friends, because I will text them all the time being like, hey, I miss you, I hope you're doing well. It like keeps your friends in the loop even though they're so far away. The number one thing though, FaceTime. When you're in different time zones, like I was saying, it is kind of hard sometimes to schedule a good time for both of you to FaceTime. However, really just making the effort to try to FaceTime, trust me, it does wonders for your long distance friendship. My biggest piece of advice though is like, don't just try to like randomly FaceTime. Schedule the call when it will work for both of you so you know for sure that they're going to pick up the phone. And another thing is, what works for one friendship won't work for another. Tyler and I love a good snap vlog. We snap vlog each other all the time. However, some of my friends, I never send them snap vlogs because that's just not what works for us. I would say with me and Mia, we voice note a lot. Gabby and I text a lot with an occasional FaceTime, and that's what works for us. And I'm confident enough in our friendships to say, just because I decided to move away, our friendships never changed, and I still feel as close to them as I did before I left. Things are going to work with different friends. They're not going to work with some friends. You just, like I was saying, it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment to figure out what works for you guys. But once you figure it out, you're good to go. Another thing that I've seen, which I absolutely adore, I was on TikTok the other day, and this girl and her best friend were FaceTiming each other, and they like went to go do the same thing. I think they both had gone to like an ice cream shop, and they both got ice cream, and they sat there and they ate their ice cream while they FaceTimed each other. And I thought that was the cutest thing ever. Just little things like that, I feel like, are what maintain long distance friendships, and just like sharing the little moments with your friends. Like, it doesn't have to be some insane, crazy 4-hour FaceTime call. Like, it could genuinely just be hearing a song you know your friend likes and texting them that you heard the song. Like, hey, they were playing blah blah blah, made me think of you. It's just the little moments and things like that that help you sustain your long distance friendship. I would say overall, those are my tips and thoughts for maintaining successful and healthy long-distance friendships. I'm now just realizing I never explained why this past weekend inspired me to make this episode. This past weekend, my mom and I drove up to Atlanta to see Tyler, which was so amazing and perfect and everything and more. But while I was there, I started to think about how long distance friendship has always just been super normal for Tyler and I. As much as it sucks, it's the truth. We've just always been long distance. And then I started to think about how basically all of my friendships are now long distance. But I was a little grateful for how well I was prepared to approach long distance friendships, thanks to my 18 years of long distance friendship. But yeah, it just made me really think about how beautiful long distance friendship is. Although it can be really hard feeling like you're always missing someone, to me it just goes to show how much you value that person and their presence in your life, and just how much you do truly love them. It's like you love them so much that the pain of missing them is worth it. And I know for a lot of people, long distance friendship is going to be a newer topic, a newer experience for them, especially if you're moving abroad for the first time. I would just say that no, just because you're moving away, your friendships don't have to end. It's completely manageable and feasible to keep your friendships alive and keep them in your life forever and ever. Thank you so much for listening. As per usual, I greatly appreciate it. I love chatting with you guys. There may be less solo episodes in the coming weeks. I have some little guests lined up, so I won't be chatting as much as I normally do. You'll have to listen to other people yap your ear off. Okay, let's chat soon, and I'll see you in Scotland. Okay, bye!